There are three members of this House who were here in 1973 when the so-called Rockefeller drug laws began. And just as an anecdotal piece of information, that law, that bill, was done independently. There were public hearings. As a matter of fact, Governor Rockefeller came before the Assembly Codes Committee and gave testimony and was grilled by members of that House on the efficacy, about the reasons behind his legislation and the justify. So there was full and open debate from the very beginning. In the years that followed, with the Marijuana Reform Act of 1976 and all of the changes in those laws that Senator Volker articulated, and I won't repeat it, right up to 2004, a great deal has occurred, and much of it in a very positive way. During Governor Carey's administration, we began, and I chaired the committee during a 10-year period from 76 to 86. We created the Division of Substance Abuse. Drug treatment programs in this state were expanded and funded and created in a significantly positive way. We lead the nation, we led the nation then, and we do today in terms of our capacity to deal with drug treatment, drug education, and drug prevention, I might add. These were all positive things that occurred. One of the individuals who was here during that period of time, counsel to Governor Carey, was a gentleman by the name of Richard Brown, who then was on the bench and now, for the last, I think, 19 years, has been District Attorney of Queens County. So he was here during that entire period of time. He, along with all the other district attorneys, have articulated in very, very specific ways why this legislation is wrong, why it should not be enacted. Now, obviously, it's part of the budget, because I don't think in a million years could it get 32 votes if it stood on its own. I can look over there at some members that I know would not vote for it if it was a clean and on its own bill. But we'll do so because it's part of the budget. When it's pointed out to us in the DA's memo on their list of concerns that a defendant can have 3, 4, 5 or more felony convictions and still receive treatment over a prosecutor's objection. On and on and on and on. And the other provisions about convictions or pleas sealed. Now imagine if someone applies for a job as a school teacher in some school district in our city or in our state, and there's no record whatsoever that's available as to that person's prior guilty pleas of selling drugs. And haven't we adopted over the years a number of penalties that are extra penalties for selling drugs near and about schools? There's a lot of hypocrisy here. But one of the things that the DAs have pointed out, and I think they're absolutely correct, is that we will diminish the incentive for drug pushers to go into treatment. And one of the things they cite is a quotation from the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse at Columbia University. And they say immediacy and certainty of punishment is the key to successful completion of drug treatment. You're going to take that away in this legislation. So there will be fewer drug addicts who are also pushers and peddlers of drugs going into treatment and staying into treatment. And you heard, of course, at some length the discussion here about the communication we all received from the special prosecutor, talking about the gaming that many of these drug pushers will participate in to get out of going to jail, and they'll be in and out and in and out and in and out. The Daily News called this the Drug Pushers Protection Act. I call it the revolving door of the drug pusher, because that's what it will be. And all of the gains that we achieved in this state, and Senator Volker and others pointed out, the reduction in the number of people going to prison because of what we did collectively over a period of years in areas of treatment, education, prevention, and incarceration. Much of that will be placed in jeopardy. And I think there's a certain amount of arrogance from those who are suggesting that we pass this legislation. Arrogance because they are saying all the district attorneys in New York State haven't the slightest, foggiest idea what they're talking about. They're wrong. The special prosecutor that we created, coordinate drug prosecution and all those things associated with it in the city of New York, her office doesn't know what they're talking about. Research Center at Columbia University, they don't know what they're talking about. The legislature, over a period of years, in its wisdom, they were wrong. Only you today have the key to what is right. That is arrogance. It's so disappointing to me to have seen all of these things occur over a period of 36 years. I'm in my 37th year here. And all the successes we've had. And to see that put in jeopardy because of the motivation on the part of some people is just mind-boggling. I don't know how you can go out and explain this to any person with half a brain. I happened to be with Commissioner Kelly Saturday night, and we talked briefly about this. And he said, Frank, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know what's going to happen. We're going to have more and more of these people on the street. We're going to arrest them over and over again. By the way, whoever said there's no cost associated with this, I think that was a question earlier. Tremendous amount of cost. Prosecuting over and over again. A revolving door. And it'll happen largely in the city of New York, where you live and where I live, and to the people we represent. We're probably, speaking to no one here, because only about a third of the majority members are in this chamber. So obviously we're not going to influence too many minds here. But I'm hopeful at some point in time we'll flip here and we'll undo the damage that you're about to do.